I'm in a small town in eastern Slovakia called Michalovce.
Awesome. And what takes you there?
Well, I recently retired from professional sport myself, but my fiance, he is a professional hockey player, so now I'm a pro athlete by proxy, and so he's playing here this season, so I'm living overseas here with them.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, I really appreciate your time and being a part of this. I know we've had you on before on Volleyball Coaches of Canada and stuff like that. And I know you're working hard at your new endeavor now that you're a retired athlete. But, in this session, we're going to be, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes type of thing. And we're going to talk about your former playing career and obviously what you're doing now. But, there's something that has been in the news as of the last 3 or 4 days. You were selected from the IOC in a specific program. Can you tell us? So congratulations, but can you tell us what it is and what it's all about?
Yeah, well, thank you. I am so excited. It's really a dream come true. But the program, it's called the International Olympic Committee Young Leaders Program. And it provides funding and support for 4 years for young leaders in sport to build the social businesses. So I was selected. The process to getting into it, we had to take part in a 6-week learning sprint, they called it. So learning the basics of social entrepreneurship, specifically with the lens of sport. From there, you had to send an application. So there was over 350 applicants from all around the world, and then they shortlisted 80 athletes. So when I got the email that I was shortlisted, I was super excited. But that waiting period between when I heard that and actually found out was I was checking my email every 10 minutes. But I found out last week that I was actually selected as one of the 25 young leaders. So I am representing Canada. There are 25 different countries represented, 13 women, 12 men. And over the 4 years, we will all be building different social businesses to really create change in the world using sport.
That's awesome. I think, before we went live, we were chatting about, Volleyball Coaches of Canada and how it's kind of blown up on the scene, and there's a lot of traction on that. And I think Volley IQ is doing the same thing, and maybe that's the silver lining to what COVID has shown as an opportunity, is how many times are we doing Zoom meetings and Google Meets and all the different sort of platforms. So you're the co-founder of Volley IQ, and you've been running this for what, like 6-9 months roughly?
Yeah, we really kicked off into commercial phase in September. So time flies, but it's about half a year ago.
Right. And so I know that, again, I know that, I know what it is, but, we have new people watching this, and we're trying to get your name out there and build your brand. So what is Volley IQ?
Yeah, well, thank you. Volley IQ is really my way of giving back, my way and my business partner, Mariah Walsh's way of giving back to the next generation of athletes. With me, as I'm living overseas, I don't have the opportunity to actually be in the gym with any younger athletes these days. So we created Volley IQ, and what it is an online training resource for aspiring elite level athletes to prepare them to succeed at the next level. And right now we're focusing on a very niche area, and that's actually around the use of video analysis. Mm-hmm. So when I made that jump from club to university, I felt like I was really prepared physically, technically, tactically. But one area that I felt, looking back on, I felt like I could use more preparation and training in is actually how video is used at that varsity level, and how I could use that to not only impact my own performance, but my team as well. So we've created a training program to teach athletes how to use video analysis, not only where they're at right now, but especially when they hit that next level.
Yeah, it's an awesome resource. And I know that you have been working on this extremely hard. I've seen the Instagram posts, the LinkedIn posts, and all that stuff. And there is quite a lot of traction with post-secondary coaches and coaches, stating their comments in some of these posts. So how did you go about, I mean, obviously you're from Alberta, played national team. What was, what we're going to talk about the business side of this here is, you guys came together, and created this company, both of you. But now, how do you go out to those coaches and get them on board? Is it something that they're using right now, or their athletes are using? That's a lot of networking you've done. How did that all work out?
Yeah, well, we really created the program from the point of our own view and our own experience. So we're definitely not coming out into the world claiming that like we're experts in the area, but what we do bring is that athlete lens and that athlete perspective, and created this framework and a series of tools and techniques that athletes can use to work with the teams and coaches they're currently on and that they will be heading to. So as an example, when you're heading to a new team, generally you're going to be playing maybe a different system than you were playing in clubs. So when you head to university, if you could know the steps that you need to take to actually learn that system before being in that gym, you're already going to be, a couple steps ahead otherwise, so you can focus on playing instead of maybe where you need to be on the court or the system. So we, based on our own experience and, chatting with other athletes and coaches have created this program. And it's meant to be complementary to current training. It's giving athletes those tools so they can become more independent, ask those right questions so coaches can focus on coaching, and then athletes can really maximize the coach's knowledge.
Sure, and I know the last time you and I chatted, you were just starting kind of a new program, and you had some kind of guest coaches or mentors, if you will, like Dallas and some others. How's that all going? And can you explain, is Dallas kind of part of the men's side of it, and you do the women's side, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we're really excited to have two head coaches, one on the women's side, so Alyssa Coulter, former national team player, former professional player, and Dallas Sunius on the men's side, again, former national team player and a professional player. So they are both at the helm leading the charge in our monthly programs. And they have done an incredible job so far at working with the athletes and preparing them as we go through the program. So they're actually just winding down about halfway through our first cohort of athletes going through the varsity prep program.
Sure, and I've heard nothing but great things about this. And when's the next program start? Or is there an intake right now?
Yeah, you bet. So we have a new intake of 12 athletes every month. So the next one's coming up in February. So on the website, our website, volleyiq.ca, is where we list all of the program start dates. But each program, it's split into 4 2-week sections. So the whole thing runs over 8 weeks, and it's meant to be complementary to the training that athletes or teams have on the go right now.
So what's the time commitment for someone who wants to do this, and what is the recommended age for participants? Is it more based towards college and university, or is it based, unfortunately, depending on what province you're in right now, you might not be playing volleyball, but like kind of the grade U16 to U18 athlete?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part on the time commitment. So as I mentioned, this is complementary training resource. So the commitment on a 2-week, it runs on 2-week chunks. So it's one hour live session with one of our Volley IQ coaches, followed by working through our course that we've created in our Volley IQ app. And so that really supports all of the learning that's gone on in the live session, gives athletes the opportunities to practice some of those techniques and tools using either their own video or sample video that we provide. So that course can be done on their own asynchronously. It would take about 1 to 2 hours between those live sessions. But the other really cool part about that app is that athletes can send videos into our coaches, and our coaches can respond back and give personalized feedback and coaching and mentorship to the athletes in between those live sessions. So I really love that piece about it, because I can be over here in Slovakia and chatting with athletes anywhere in the world.
No, and again, that's, just reiterating, the power of, I don't think anyone thought, 5 years ago, business meetings and communication would be so relevant on, Zoom and Google Meets and whatnot, right? And I'm just trying to figure out how Dallas has so much time now that he has a little baby, right? I told him he's not going to sleep.
Oh, he is such a champ. He actually, the day that the first men's program actually launched is when him and his wife, they had their baby. So we had Mariah, the co-founder, fill in, but he is totally dedicated to the program. But
yeah, I know he's an awesome guy. I've got to know him better than prior, obviously, taking my master's degree with him, and he's just he's an awesome representative for your brand and what you're trying to do. So thumbs up for getting him on board. So I just bug him because my baby's 5 months old, and I'm like, oh, you're not going to sleep for like the first 2 months. So it's funny seeing him in the master's course where he just looks a little tired at times.
I can only imagine.
So anyways, what's the long-term vision of I know you have we've discussed a lot of things on the back end of where you want to go with this now that you have this IOC. Is it a grant or is it a support system or both?
Yeah, so it's both. It does provide some funding, but also a lot of mentorship and a support system. But long-term vision is to really maximize the use of the tools and technology that we have at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were just chatting about, we have come to this world where we can connect, even if we're halfway across the world.
Right.
So we really, with Volley IQ, want to level the playing field for athletes, whether you're, living rurally or living in an area where you don't have access to maybe the same resources you would living in a big city. We can hop online and you can be connected with some, top coaches, top athletes and mentors, so that, if you have a goal of playing varsity or pro or whatever it is, that we can be there as a resource to help you to reach those goals. So the long-term vision is to continue to expand the content, beyond video analysis, but other areas that will help to prepare athletes, and as well as tap into the knowledge of coaches and other athletes that we have in Canada and globally to really create a community around Volley IQ to support athletes.
So you just made a post, I think, today in the Volleyball Coaches of Canada Facebook page. What's that all about? Let's get it out there and see what we can do about that.
Yeah, well, I am looking for 12 athletes, so either male or female athletes, to join the February intake of the Varsity Prep program. So if you or anyone is interested in playing university or have already signed, I'd love to be connected and help you to really hit the ground running when you do get in that varsity gym.
That's awesome. So I know there's companies such as I'm a huge supporter of Athlete Wellness Academy with Nick Del Bianco and Misha Harris. I know they work with their brand, which is something completely different than what you offer, but with university teams as a whole. Is there a direction for you to be a contractor, or you're using your program with a select team or multiple teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the first teams that we worked with was the University of Fraser Valley with their varsity program, so we definitely can and would love to work with varsity teams to, whether it's set the stage at the beginning of the season for what the expectations are around video analysis and how you can really maximize the resources you have at your fingertips. I know that coaches spend a crazy amount of time doing video analysis, and so if we can help connect the dots between all the work that coaches put in and helping athletes to really maximize that, then that would be great. But yeah, for any varsity coaches or varsity programs, love to chat. So you can feel free to send me a note.
So how do they send you a note?
So by email. So my email is jessie@volleyiq.ca.
Okay. So now let's shift direction a little bit here. You know, you have such a in-depth playing resume, you know, being on the national team, being a pro athlete, and all that. Now you're an entrepreneur. Ever thought of coaching?
You know, I would love to coach, and really because of my current situation, I'm working and living remotely. That's through Volley IQ is where I'm
kind of coaching, yeah, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. But I've got a data brain. I'm all about diving into the details, and so I definitely have such a great appreciation for great coaches, because I think even though you're a great athlete doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a great coach. So I definitely have interest, but I know to be a great coach, I would want to put in a lot of work to get to that point.
And we're gonna come back to the great coach part, but I'm just gonna make a comment, and this is my own personal opinion: is with your personality, your playing resume, where you live, your entrepreneurship, ever thought of being a scout to try and help athletes here in Canada go over across the pond and get put on certain teams at the pro level?
Yeah, you know, that's definitely an interesting, something I hadn't thought of, but it would be a natural fit with kind of how my brain is wired. But I've been through all of the jumps from one level to the next, from club to varsity, then to pro. And from my experience, and I know other experience of Canadians, that making that leap to playing pro is not only tough, but once you get there, then there's lots of challenges as well. So if that could be a resource to support athletes in that phase of the journey, I'd love to be.
Yeah, I think it'd be a natural fit for you. And I honestly don't think you really got to search it to find a scout or an agent or stuff like that. It's not necessarily an easy journey to find the right person and get connected overseas at the right place that you want to go, right? So, but we talk about great coaches, and we won't use names because I know you've had many coaches, and if someone's watching this, well, why didn't she mention me? You know, what makes a great coach in your eyes, and did that change when you were, let's say, a U17, 18 athlete, to when you were a university athlete, to when you were a national or pro athlete? Or was it always sort of the same optics?
Yeah, I think there has definitely been an evolution of maybe at each point in my career what has been a great coach for me at each stage. And I mean, I've been so lucky to have such a long line of incredible coaches. But I think a consistent feature across all of those is the coach's ability to set expectations, but also empower me and empower the team to reach those expectations or those goals. So this kind of this balance between support and then also kind of that, okay, like that we can do this, and so so it's really, they set really high expectations and then supported us to meet those, which has been really, really helpful for me as I go through my career.
We interviewed Ben Josephson a while back on Volleyball Coaches of Canada, and I asked him the same question. He goes, I said, what makes a great coach? And he goes, and he was referencing in an I format, in the sense of great coaches work harder than their athletes. And I think that really, just preparing for practice or preparing for the tournament or whatever, travel and stuff like that. During your playing career, was there any standout moments where a coach really changed the way you thought of the sport or how you played the sport itself, which obviously gave you a projection of going pro and playing national team?
Yeah, and I'm just drawing on more of my recent or
Sure.
later years of playing, but definitely when I started and I had some coaches that helped me start to see the game from more of a tactical level and less of an emotional level. And that just opened up a whole world for me, because it became less of you're playing good or bad, but it's okay, you're trying this tactic and it's not working, or so let's try something new. And it went from this to a very much of a problem solving kind of mindset, and so that helped me, because I know I'm probably not alone on this. For a lot of athletes, making mistakes or not playing well, it is very emotional, but having a coach who kind of opened the playbook and is like, okay, if this technique's not working, this tactic is not working, let's find something that does work. That was really cool to me, and helped to accelerate my growth as a player.
So what were some major hurdles that you had throughout your playing career that, were there ever any moments where you're just like, screw it, I'm going to play recreation adult league, nothing against that, at some point, and that's it, and just pursue other paths? Or was there always a focus of, when you played club level, to go, I'm going to play pro and national team? I mean, that's a long way away from when you play club, right? So...
Yeah, with volleyball, thinking back to club, I never had this long-term vision of, I'm going to be on the national team or I'm going to be playing pro, to be quite honest. Yeah. I always played because I truly loved it and enjoyed it. I loved the people I was surrounded by, and being in that environment, I think, helped me to succeed off the court in other areas of my life as well. So I always stuck with it because it was just so much fun, and so each new level, that fun factor was always there. But some hurdles, I've had injuries in my final year of high school. I had a broken ankle and I was out for most of the season, so that was definitely a challenge in a year when I was trying to figure out where I was going to go to university, battling that. And then when I was in university, I had knee surgery, so that was another hurdle. And again, more recently, I had a back injury right before actually our last chance Olympic qualifier with the national team. So a couple injuries here and there. It's a natural part of being an athlete, but those experiences really drove a lot of what I built into Volley IQ, because I know the challenge on a personal level of, when you're injured, how can you still continue to advance and excel as an athlete, and so the techniques and lessons that I learned when I was injured is what I've shared through the Volley IQ program. But kind of aside from injuries, the final challenge that I experienced later in my career was just a huge amount of burnout, going from national team straight into professional season and back again, kind of year in, year out. It's tough to catch your breath and find those pockets to recharge when you're going kind of from the peak of one season and then ramping it right back up into the peak of another. So that was a big lesson learned for me, is if you're playing the long game, which you are at that pro level, is there only comes a point where you can keep powering through. We're all human. We all need a chance to recharge, and so that was a big hurdle as well.
Interesting. So when was your official last game on the national team?
It is crazy, but it was actually over a year ago in the beginning of January. So I have not played volleyball in over a year.
Okay. So and when you got injured, or was that when Autumn Bailey got injured as well?
No, so Autumn got injured in July at our Volley Nations League qualifier, and then my back injury happened in the fall when I went to play professionally in France. So I had a herniated disc in my back. So I was playing on that for a couple months, held together by Band-Aids, and then made it through the Olympic qualifier barely. And then I stepped away from my pro team to rehab my back in preparation for VNL, but of course that did not happen this past summer. So it was a bit of an anticlimactic end.
Sure, and that's what I was going to get at. I was going to go when it sucks, by the way, but I mean, like, you're thinking your career is, you're on the back stretch, you know what I mean, and no offense, and were you thinking that, okay, VNL is going to be my last, I'm going to go hard, that's it, hang up the shoes, and then move on with volley IQ and other sort of endeavors in your life, or did it kind of naturally happen in the sense of COVID hits, you're moving on to other things, and realize, like, what was your realization and how did that come about? Because that must have been extremely difficult.
Yeah, it was an incredibly tough decision to make, but I made a decision back, I guess, around a year ago that VNL was going to be my final hurrah. I was so incredibly proud of the program and of the team for achieving that, because we just worked so hard to qualify, and so I was super excited to compete with the team in that tournament. But around that time, I'm very career oriented as well, and so I had applied for a master's program through Queen's University and found out that I got into that, and I'm actually going to be starting it this weekend. So I had some other kind of post-sport things in the pipeline that I'm excited about as well, and I care so much about the team and about the program that we needed to be, 100% committed or not, and I knew I was moving on to the next phase. So it was really tough and sad when VNL was canceled. I mean, of course, most things in the world were shut down, but definitely a tough ending.
Now, was there any sort of, were you able to close the book and properly under the circumstances of COVID? Did you send an email? Did you send a letter? Did you have a Zoom call with everyone on it, and you had the floor and said your goodbyes, or did you have a team meeting? What were the circumstances of the final, like, this is how it's going to be?
Yeah, there was, I think there's a couple of athletes who, we've retired, but it's such a weird time to retire, because there's no kind of final in-person team hurrah. Like, wow, like, that was such a great,
good run,
time of your life together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still to be determined. I'd love to get everybody together and, back in the gym and say those kind of final goodbyes, I guess, for now. But yeah, so it's kind of a weird unofficial end, or there wasn't kind of a formal closing
of the book.
Yeah.
So maybe a comeback story here.
Oh man, I don't know if you want to see me playing after a year of not touching the ball.
So a big thing is you're a household name here in Alberta. Lots and lots of players within my club and other clubs know who you are, know where you're from, know what you've done, and you're an amazing ambassador to the sport. And obviously the apple never falls too far from the tree. Who was your biggest inspiration, and who was your biggest supporter throughout it all?
Oh, that is such a good but such a tough question.
You can list more than one.
Yeah. I definitely will have to say that, I'll start with the biggest supporters, and that's definitely got to be my parents. Neither of my parents I didn't come from a volleyball family, neither of them played, but what they did is really let me pursue my passion of volleyball, and they said, what do you need, and we'll do that for you. So I live out in the country, so they were driving me day in, day out. They would drive home from the city from work, pick me up, drive back, and so they were just they really put their life on hold until I could drive on my own to get me to where I needed to be. And there was never any pressure from their side. It was just support. So
awesome.
Parents for sure. And biggest inspiration, I mean, I don't think I can name one person. I have day in, day out inspired by my teammates, my coaches, and it's really this whole community and ecosystem and culture that's been created that has just made my volleyball journey so special. So I'm just so grateful for everybody along the way.
Awesome, Jessie. Well, again, like I said, you're an amazing ambassador. I think you're doing great things with Volley IQ, and I really appreciate you being here today, taking the time again to spend with me, answering similar questions, but we had new questions. But for everyone that didn't tune in last time, how did people get a hold of you? And tell us all your contact info so that people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so you can head to our website, volleyiq.ca, or shoot me an email, jessie@volleyiq.ca. I'd love to chat with you, whether you're a coach, an athlete, or a parent. My virtual door is always open.
Awesome, Jessie. Well, stay safe on your side of the world, and you're not going anywhere in the volleyball world, so I'm sure we're going to be chatting again sooner than later. So I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat.
Awesome, Jessie. Have a good one.